Hello, I'm Jackie Tomes and welcome to the latest episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery. And we're having open conversations about building a property business and all of the things that go along with doing that in a way that is ultimately going to take you towards freedom. Which takes us today to an episode about alcohol. It may seem like a little bit off field, but actually it is so relevant to how you master yourself in order to get the best results. And Dave and I have been through quite a journey when it comes to alcohol, and that's what today's episode is all about, like what we've learned from being people who are big lovers of wine and at various points been probably a bit too big a lover of wine, and how that ultimately ended up being clear to be stunting the growth of the business. So we're going to share our lessons that we've had along the way from making this happen. Now, it is also relevant to other vices that you may have in your life. So whether it's alcohol or there's other things that you maybe feel like are your vice in life, this episode is all about finding the balance so that we can ultimately have a really enjoyable life, but also maximize the potential that we have to take the business as far as we want to take it. So here's myself and Dave. Let's do this. Hello.
Hey there.
Hello again from South Africa. Another sunny South Africa podcast recording for you. And today we are talking about alcohol. Why are we talking about alcohol, Dave?
Well, after much deliberation, I've come to the conclusion that it's probably not the best for you, especially as an entrepreneur. It has a heck of a lot more impact than I ever realised before. And I think we've been through quite a journey with it in total, going from earlier days where we were utilising it, on a regular basis. It's just kind of a way to wind down, right? Mm-hmm. Which is often what people use alcohol, wine at the end of the day or a gin and tonic.
Glass of wine.
Gin and tonic at the end of the day. It's a great way to help switch off from the stresses and strains of running a business and dealing with all the frustrations of the business. And you can kind of help to dampen that all and just switch off for a bit. And
it all seems fine, right? Like that's fine for a period of time, but what gradually started to happen with us is that it really escalated a lot in terms of how much we were drinking, and only by things that subsequently happened did we realise how much of an effect that was having on how hard we were making things and how much easier and more creative life can be if you get a better balance with it.
And I'd say, like everyone, we during COVID was the main point at which this became more of a thing, right? 2020, we're all stuck at home. Alcohol is one of our greatest friends at that point. Nice, easy way to deal with the repetition of life. And we definitely escalated during that year. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that. That was a way of, it's not necessarily a coping mechanism as such, just a way of dealing with the boredom almost, like being in the same place all the time, and it kept it kept it more fun. And we definitely had that issue.
But I think even before COVID, I think we could easily have been sinking a bottle of wine of a Monday evening. With dinner.
Yeah. And I guess there's one more thing to put into the equation is that I absolutely love wine. Like, it's a big thing for me. It's one of my big passions is great quality wine. So I was drawn by it from that perspective as well.
Yes, that's true. So we're going to talk specifically about wine and wine and alcohol for this episode, but I guess it can relate more broadly to just various vices that we use.
Vices and indulgences, things that you do. For us, it's primarily been alcohol, but things that you do that help you to wind down, have fun, maybe an indulgence of some sort that you feel is like part of life's joys.
Sugar, chocolate.
Yeah, unhealthy eating, but also it could include drugs, it could include your cigarette intake, coffee even. Basically any drug or thing that causes you to have chemical hormone reaction like drug that is in essence unhealthy for the body would be what we're talking about today.
I think all of this stuff in moderation is fine, but the point is that it's whatever the thing is that you're not having in moderation is really the topic of this discussion, and for us that has been wine. So let's just see, right, so we've kind of touched on COVID. We were already able to probably easily sink 5 bottles of wine, 6 bottles of wine a week.
Yeah.
Probably potentially more actually. Probably 7 actually.
I think that maybe on a holiday week, yes. But not on a normal working week. We would not be having 7 a week.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking at the weekend we could have easily had a bottle of champagne followed by a bottle of red wine with dinner.
Yeah.
So the Sundays we could have been having 2 bottles of wine.
Yeah, but there were definitely ones we weren't. Look, let's not argue about this. Let's
so
just
anyway,
leave it that there was a fair amount of alcohol.
We're drinking a lot of wine, and COVID escalated, and all the way through up until the end of 2020, when we were in South Africa in January of 2021, and South Africa banned alcohol.
It was like random COVID. We couldn't understand it at the time, as their method of dealing with COVID was to ban alcohol. We're like, what is going on? It's apparently meant that there was...
Because everyone gets a bit more cuddly when they're having their wine.
More social interaction was because of the alcohol, and also there were more accidents, which meant more
hospital
admissions, which was more strain on the hospitals. So they decided alcohol was a thing that couldn't be happening during this time, which was random, but actually it meant that we were in South Africa forced to not drink.
Yes, and I was feeling a bit wearied by alcohol anyway, and I was starting to think, do I need to have a break from this? And then that came in, and I was like, you know what, let's just do it, because, really, we didn't want to be going down the black market. You could have really done if you wanted to. We were like, no, let's just embrace it. And what happened off the back of that was actually insane. So that was January 2021, alcohol's banned, and we just basically quit alcohol cold turkey, and it just started a cascade of very big changes. So we start drinking alcohol. I guess the first thing is that we start to realise in the evening when we're tired. We realise actually that we're more tired earlier in the evening than we ever felt before. And thinking about the circadian rhythm, we somehow slightly more aligned with the fact that it's nighttime and therefore we should be going to bed.
Yep.
So we start going to bed a bit earlier. And therefore, because we've gone to bed earlier, we then wake up earlier. We're waking up with the sun. And then because we've woken up with the sun, we then have more time.
Yep.
Because we have more time, we then can do other things that are good for us, like reading a good book in the morning or doing some exercise in the morning, which I never really had much energy for. It was always hard for me to exercise. And suddenly I wanted to go out for a run. And I was managing to go out for a run a few mornings a week or go for a swim, which wasn't happening before. And then because of that, then I was eating more healthily. And because I was eating more healthily, that was giving more energy. What other trains of goodness were there?
Well, going back to the evening where you would normally have alcohol, I think when you drink alcohol, your body doesn't notice when it's full, and it craves more salty foods. That's why you generally just eat more. So you're eating more, pushing your stomach more, and probably eating more unhealthy foods because you're craving less healthy stuff, more fatty stuff to go with the alcohol, which has the knock-on effect, which means you put on more weight. And basically it's bad for your body to have too much food. It's an unhealthy activity if you do too much of it, like everything. So you're putting on more weight. It means you're less energized. So the next day you're kind of feeling less energy, and you're just kind of all round, your body is not as healthy. So it's not just the energy, but it's just the way the body is operating is less healthy, which means you end up more ill, more likely to get ill, more colds, more coughs. And that's one of the massive changes, right? Since 2021, when we cut out alcohol and then we started the cascade effect of all the other things we are doing with it, we've gotten to a point where we are literally never really ill. Like, coughs and colds, if I get a cold, it's one day max. One day of cold and it's gone. But it's rare as well. And I look around at family and friends who are very healthy people, and they're regularly ill. And I'm like, but I don't understand. Like, how is it that they're ill again? They're ill again. And I haven't been ill for months.
And that's how we were.
That's how we were before. And this is, you can't put this all on alcohol, but really alcohol is a drug, and it is a poison. And it is putting strain on the parts of your system that are designed to get rid of toxins. So if you're imbibing a lot of alcohol, you're putting strain on the toxin eradication system, and your immune system is under strain, which means that it can't cope with the other problems that come your way, which means you succumb to them, right? You just get ill more. So yeah, illness is another one. So you get less ill.
And then also it might not even be necessarily a full hangover, but it's just like the next day, the effect of, I think, like, your sleep is always worse when you've had alcohol, which means that you're more tired, plus the toxicity, you feel more negative. I remember, like, particularly when I used to get much more wasted when I was younger, and the next day I would just feel so much anxiety, and I would find something to pin it on what the anxiety was about. But really, it's because the alcohol has negatively affected my emotions.
Absolutely.
Which makes me feel more anxious. And then if we're bringing this back to a business perspective, if I feel anxious, I do not want to take on the world. I want to run away. I want to curl up. I don't want to be out of my comfort zone, because I already feel out my comfort zone just being alive, basically. So it makes you. It made me just want to shrink away
from things. So you become less confident, and you become less good at what you're doing, because without confidence you actually tend to become more timid in everything, which is probably the worst thing, because you need to be able to step out of your comfort zone to be able to grow and evolve. Whereas if you're timid, you get stuck in your comfort zone because you're worried about stepping outside of it, and so therefore you don't grow and evolve, and things don't happen. It stops the magic. And I guess along those lines as well, the mental health perspective, it's putting a strain on your entire system, and this alcohol puts strain on the chemical system, because of course you're putting chemicals in your body, and on your physical system, because you're putting strain on your body. And whenever you put strain and stress on the body and on the chemical body, it unbalances you. It unbalances the body system in a way that you end up more stressed and strained in the mental and emotional capacity as well. And what stress does to the body is it pushes you into survival mode. So one of the reasons you feel more anxious is because your body's going into fight or flight mode. So you're literally hyper aware, worried about the world, because actually all you've done is put yourself into fight or flight. And the body starts pumping cortisol into the system, pumping in order to deal with the pain of the hangover, pumping adrenaline into the system because it's worried that there's something wrong in the environment. And literally this then exacerbates that whole stress element, which is, as we discuss in many episodes, kind of the reason for burnout. The full reason you end up burning out is because of stress, but all you're doing by drinking too much alcohol is putting yourself into that state unnecessarily. And you're causing yourself to go towards more anger, more anxiety, more stress, more depression. Literally every negative emotion we have comes from the stress on the system, the being stressed pretty much, and because it's part of your survival mechanism. So, we just do this to ourselves.
Yeah, it's really
crazy.
Good, isn't it? And that's one thing I was going to say as well, which was, no, it's gone.
No, so I would say, going back to the hangover, you've got this hangover in the morning, and I know this feeling so well of waking up slightly sweaty, slightly not nauseous as such, but not feeling settled in the stomach. And more importantly, because we can deal with all of that stuff with work, but the brain, the head, it feels foggy, you feel a bit blurry, you feel a bit worn out up there. Now, there are degrees of this. The more you drink, the worse it is. But even on a certain amount of drink, a smaller amount, you can still wake up feeling less mentally aware. You've got less mental acuity. So you wake up having had your alcohol, you've got this mini hangover maybe, a bit of brain fog, which means you've got less mental acuity, less ability to make good decisions, less ability to kind of see the bigger perspective, partly because you're in that survival fight or flight mechanism, which means narrows your focus, which basically means you're making worse decisions in your business.
Taking longer to make them. Feeling worse about them.
So yeah, for us, getting rid of that alcohol, once we cleaned up, once we got clean, we were making better and faster decisions in the business, and we were able to make them because we had a better perspective on what was going on, and our brains were working faster.
I mean, that was the last thing I was going to say that I remember now. It was, so then before, we were reaching for a glass of wine at the end of the day because we couldn't wind down ourselves otherwise. We weren't feeling really great at the end of the day, and so therefore get a glass of wine in your system, suddenly you feel like the world is a better place again. But actually, it's really masking what the underlying stuff really is that you've got to deal with.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it's a coping mechanism to deal with some stuff that you're not feeling great about. But then if you drown it in wine, then you don't really get to look at what the thing really is. And you can't see it.
Can I just say that at the time, I would never have said we were drowning anything in wine.
No.
And I admit, I'm not saying. I'm saying that in hindsight, even just a glass of wine, I can see if you're using it as a way to relax at the end of the day, that means you're using it as a way to get rid of stress, which means you are using it as a method of dampening down the problems, the feelings you're having, and that means you're not dealing with those feelings.
Yes. And you can't see what those feelings are, and because you don't have the perspective that comes from everything that we've just said, you don't have the perspective to say, actually, you know what, I'm not really feeling great, and actually, how could I feel better about all of that? Which means you don't grow and evolve in such a great way.
So then by you're ending up in a position where you've got less perspective, you've got more negative emotion, you're less self-aware, and you're less able to assess and address your underlying emotional baggage. The things that are basically forcing you down paths you don't realize about, the self-sabotage, you actually can't see it. You actually in fact, what ends up happening, I remember this feeling as well, just like you feel a bit shit and you pretty much come up with every reason under the sun why you're feeling crap. None of those reasons mention the alcohol, and it could be because actually
so
you might have drunk the alcohol on the Friday or Saturday night and you come to the Monday morning where it's no longer really a hangover anymore because you had that on the Sunday, but the body is still strained, and then you're on the Monday going to work and you start to feel a bit crap about it, you're feeling a bit negative.
You know what, I think I've got the wrong business model. That's the problem here.
You blame the world for it. And I've had this. I still get this. I'm like...
Yeah, I still get this.
On a Monday morning, we've decided to have a heavy Friday because we're celebrating something. Or Saturday, and I get to Monday and I start to feel a bit crap about something in the business. I'm talking to Jackie saying, oh, this thing's really bad. I just really hate that person.
That refinance isn't going fast enough.
It's really bad. And Jackie's like, I think it's because you drank a bit too much on Friday. And it's true, it is. It is. And that's all happening in the background. And like, we're doing it to ourselves.
Yes.
It's crazy. And I guess the last thing to say is, with all of that stuff, I get two things to say. One is we glossed over the fact that your sleep is literally destroyed by alcohol. So there's loads of great books about this. I can't remember them at the moment. You have to think about it, Jax. But in theory, if you have your alcohol too close to sleep, you are ruining your ability to get into deep sleep. And I think you manage it in the first half of the night, but not the second half of the night. Something like that.
Something you can get the first 4 hours or first half of the night, you actually do okay. It's the second half when you go more into REM.
Yeah, you go into, it's basically, you're supposed to have a certain amount of deep sleep and a certain amount of REM sleep. Sorry, we haven't researched this to tell you the reality, but the fact is, you can't get the sleep that you need, the type of sleep you need, which is, again, as we know, sleep is essential to functioning well and being productive and having energy. So you're just destroying your ability to function well and have energy. Just because you've got alcohol in the system. Doesn't matter if if you feel drunk the night before, it's the fact that the alcohol's in the system. So one of the things that we do, which we'll come on to in a bit anyway, is drink a bit earlier if we do drink, so that we've got time to process it before sleep. But then the last thing I was going to say is that we're all in this life to have fun, find joy, and basically be happy. And funnily enough, alcohol seems to us to be a way to do that, doesn't it? You're like, it's going to have a nice night out. It's going to be awesome. Drink loads, have a great time. But if you're doing that regularly, the rest of your life is less fun, less joyful, less happy. You're literally destroying the rest of your life just to have that odd night out. I mean, that's the definition of self-sabotage, right?
Description of UK culture.
So, I think we've probably got our point across, right?
I think so. So basically, by cutting out alcohol in January 2021, there was a cascade of loads of really, really, really good stuff that happened that we realised just by pulling out alcohol for us, all of this really great stuff happened. Now, we have subsequently started drinking alcohol again. Yeah. But generally in much more moderation than before. Definitely have fallen off the wagon and drunk more than I wanted to and felt a lot worse for it. But as with all of these good habits, it's not about sticking to the habit that's necessarily the problem. It's when you fall off, being able to recommit to it without too much self-judgment along the way. And I think I had some personal challenges last year which made me definitely want to reach for more of the chocolate and wine and
gin and tonics
so it's about recommitting to the habit again, and for me also just seeing how much weight just dropped off, pretty much we both dropped a stone because we stopped drinking alcohol all the time. and because of all the stuff that we also therefore weren't eating. So that was very motivating as well.
Yeah.
And seeing that literally our whole body shapes actually changed. I look at comparing pictures and we were just much more rounded. Not that we were necessarily fat, but we're just like
you can
inflamed.
Yeah,
you can see we're inflamed.
Yeah.
Okay, so
more chubby. We were more chubby.
Yeah. And okay, so really finding the balance of being able to enjoy life and enjoy some of these things, but it not be a need to have them, I think is the balance point that we're getting to. Because wine is a joyful thing to be able to experience being on Earth. Like, what a glorious thing. Like, if you live on Mars, you don't get the good wines from, Franschhoek or wherever else. So it's a glorious thing, but being able to choose to have it, not feel like you have to have it.
Yeah. And I would say, going along those lines, there's no right answer to this. No one has the right answer, but we've ended up at a point of moderation where we've just set parameters. And we've just said, let's make sure we have at least 3 or 4 days a week with no alcohol whatsoever. So we max 2 to 3 days a week with alcohol in them, so your body has plenty of time to recover after that. And then when we do drink, we do it fully in moderation now, right? So of those 3 days, we might have one day if it's a celebratory day where we drink a bit more, but the other 2 will be minimal amounts, a glass of wine. And one of the ways we've made to do that for us with wine, we utilise a device called the Coravan. The Coravan is amazing. That was a game changer for us.
Game changer. Coravin.
Coravan, yeah. And the Coravan basically sends a needle through the cork, and then it means you press a button and it inserts some inert gas into the wine bottle, and the cork's still in there, and then you can then pour some wine through that same needle to come out, so you don't have to open your bottle. And I think that was one of our biggest issues before. You open the bottle and you're like,
you've got to finish it, or it's a waste.
Yeah, might as well finish it. Or you'll have half one night, half the next night. And we suddenly went from doing that to being able to have literally a tiny glass of wine.
Like 80 mils or something.
80 mils. And you're not wasting anything because the bottle hasn't been opened.
And actually, in a way it's annoying because it's like it comes out really slowly when you've got the Coravan in, which is annoying, but it's also good because it's an effort to get it out.
Yeah.
So we will like put the Coravan in, get a couple of small glasses of wine out, and then put it away. Because for me, the minute I've had some wine, I want more wine.
I want a bit more.
So at least then if it's a real effort, I'm like, oh no, it's an effort. That'll do. It's just the taste that I want.
Yeah, so we literally take the Coravan out, put the bottle away, and then if you want more wine, you've got quite a lot to do to get wine. So that's been a game changer for us. Coravan was one thing. Another option, if you want to be able to just have some wine and you don't want to spend like £300 for this device, which is quite expensive, you can buy these gases that you just spray into the bottle, so it can last many, many nights instead of just 1 or 2 nights. So it's like there's one called Private Preserve, where you take the cork out as per normal, pour your wine, and then you spray some gas in and put your cork in. And that means you can just have a small glass and then you just put the wine away. I'm going to get commission for these, hopefully.
Yeah, we should.
Contact the
We need an affiliate link. One thing to mention about the Coravan is they use these little capsules that you put in that have got this gas in, argon gas.
Argon gas.
Now, just to make it really clear, you cannot take these on a plane. Not in the hold, not anywhere on a plane, which we found out when we were flying from South Africa to the Maldives, and we were like, it'd be great to be able to take the Coravan with us to the Maldives to be able to buy the wine and not have to open the wine. We literally put them in our checked baggage, and we were very late to finally go and board the plane, and we're about to board the plane, and our boarding passes like beep, and they're like, can you come with me, please? And they take us aside, and they're like, have you got something not permitted in these bags? So it turns out that those are not permitted, and they're damn expensive. We spent about 100 quid on those gases, and we had to throw them all away. And then you actually, again, another time you forgot they were in the Coravan. So anyway, that's an aside. Don't buy gas and try and take it on a plane. They'll not be pleased with you.
Yeah, I would highly advise that Coravan. It is amazing. And the other thing it did for us as well was, when you drink nice wine, I want to drink nice wine, and it's quite expensive because you have to open a bottle and drink your bottle. But this meant that we could have a really expensive bottle of wine, but only drink a tiny amount of it over many, many nights.
And also, when you drink more expensive wine, it actually has less
impact on you.
Less sulfites, which then actually means you don't feel so bad the next day. So you can, maybe you normally are doing like what we are, opening a £10 bottle of wine and drinking the whole thing. You could get, maybe you get a £100 bottle of wine and just have a small little glass and actually spend the same amount of money. But feel better,
Yeah.
and come to appreciate these flavours that Dave has come to
yeah.
love.
One day I'll do a wine podcast. So that brings me on to supplements, right? Because another thing we've done to improve how we cope with alcohol is to find different supplements which support the body's ability to process alcohol.
Now, just to be clear, this is not medical advice that we're giving here. We are just sharing from our research and self-testing. This is working for us.
Yeah, it's worked
so this
for
is just
us.
more of an FYI.
So I think the things that we've used that work really well, first one is glutathione. And glutathione is...
Can you spell that?
Glutathione, I'd rather not.
Go on,
Let's put it in the show notes.
You can send it to
I'm
remind
pretty sure it is Glutathioне.
Close enough.
Fingers
You'll
crossed.
Find it on Google now.
So glutathione, from what I remember, I think is basically the enzyme that your liver uses to process toxins. So you're giving your body more of that to help process toxins. If I'm wrong about that, sorry anyone who can kind of like say, no, Dave, you're talking crap there. But I think that it's something to do with that.
Familiar, yeah.
So glutathione's really good. So we pop a couple of those before we drink. And then if we drink a bit more, we might pop a couple of those after we drink as well.
My
So
mum
that's
finds
really
this
good.
hilarious. We're like, oh, we're going to have a glass of wine. Oh, let's have our tablets. And we just get our little pillbox out and we pop a couple of these.
So that's the first one, to help the body process alcohol. I think there's another thing called milk thistle, which I know some people swear by as well. Similar. Might as well research this if you're interested. The next thing we use is activated charcoal. And I can't remember nowadays. I used to know, years ago we started doing this, I used to know, but I think activated charcoal goes into the system and helps to soak up the alcohol so it doesn't have such a
It's like a filtering
impact.
help or something.
Yeah, filtering help for the gut system. I'm not sure entirely, but when I researched it, it seemed like a good idea, and we use it now, and it does seem to help.
Yeah, it definitely.
It
we
really
have
does.
noticed a difference. And then the last thing is, when you drink alcohol, as we understand it, your body basically pees out all of the minerals, like loads of minerals, vitamins and minerals in your body. So you end up like a bit of mineral and vitamin.
So as we know, it
Deficient.
dehydrates you, right?
Yep.
It dehydrates you, so you're deficient in hydration, but also all of your minerals and vitamins have gone.
Yeah.
You've got rid of them.
So we started having like a multivitamin after we finished drinking. And those three things like have really helped. Stacey does not buy into our approach with this, just to mention it. But
You've spoken to her about it.
Yeah, I'm sure you were there. About it.
So yeah, and the last thing actually is not just multivitamins we would use to kind of replenish the system, but also electrolytes. You know, like the dehydrant when you've got diarrhea or something. You buy rehydrant.
Don't
stuff.
dehydrant.
Yeah, rehydrant. So the stuff that helps to put the right electrolytes back in the system, we'll use that as well to help deal with dehydration side of things. I mean, from a general perspective, I feel way better the next day. So my qualitative research on this
on the sample size of 2
is
very positive.
But regardless, it does make sense, right? Is that your body has to process this stuff and it's doing stuff to you. So supplementing in some way to help it process and to deal with the negative effects of it seems like a win. It must do something.
I mean, ideally, number one, just don't drink wine. Just don't drink alcohol, or that would be the best thing for the body, right? Second one is really moderate, and I think during the day.
Yeah, during the day, so that you've got plenty of time to process it before you sleep, so it doesn't affect your sleep as much.
Yeah.
I think I've read before that it's like a minimum of 3 hours before you're going to go to sleep, you should stop drinking, so your body's got some time. But obviously, it's going to depend on how much you've drunk.
So yeah, we've actually switched, like particularly on like Saturday or Sunday, much more of a like going out for lunch kind of lifestyle, where we have a nice lunch, we would drink wine with it, and then you've got the whole rest of the evening to sort of get your hangover over and done with, and have a good night's sleep and start the next day feeling good. And then the other side of it is not drinking if we're wanting to move the business forward the next day.
So if we would tend to drink more on a Friday and a Saturday, but then take the Sunday as a rest day to make sure we've got definitely recovered as much as possible by Monday.
Because really, the whole reason we're talking about this is from a business perspective. We want to feel great when we're sitting down to move the business forwards and feel confident and empowered and excited and energized. And alcohol just has such a negative overall effect, if not managed, on our ability to do all of that.
Yeah. And it's hard. Like, running a business of any sort is a stressful, difficult thing to do at the best of times. So you got to just try and find ways to make that better, like make that easier. And if you're doing the opposite, like this is a sabotage. If you're drinking too much while trying to run a business, you're just making your life so hard. Yeah.
So your final key takeaway? Anything that we've... So go on then, like any questions that we've got
covered
here?
Everything here. So the last thing I was going to say was just we make sure we always eat when we drink as well. That's again a simple method to put something in the stomach. I know we do that anyway. People do that anyway to reduce the effects of hangover, but it is just generally good for your body. Better for your body to have food in there as well.
The Europeans have got it right.
Yeah.
Not the binge drinking UK way. But I guess it's throwing out this question more widely of maybe alcohol isn't the thing for you, or maybe there's other things as well. Like just becoming aware of how it's impacting your energy, motivation, immune system,
productivity,
happiness.
Yeah, so many different things. And, we're capable of doing and achieving so much, but only if we look after ourselves. So the question to throw at you off the back of this is, how can you look after yourself more, particularly thinking about some of these indulgences, where are you indulging perhaps too much and it's actually overall making the whole thing worse? Maybe if you just reduce things, how could you make everything flow more easily, achieve more, and have more fun along the way? I guess it's the same as we often say with everything. It just comes back to finding a balance, finding your balance, what works for you. And if you're ever doing a bit too much of something or extreme or something, it's never going to be good for you, ever. It's just finding a good balance that works for you.
And knowing that the problem with balance is balance is like on a tightrope, right? Like it's very easy to fall off one side or the other, and so it's just about getting back on again if you fall off, and knowing that it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect to be a heck of a lot better than it is right now. Thank you so much for joining us on this latest episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. That was quite cathartic to record. It's wonderful to be able to have an opportunity to share these experiences because they've been so powerful for us. So I hope that's got you thinking how you can maybe change your relationship with some of the things like alcohol in your life. So next week we are going to be joined again by the amazing Susanna Cole. Oh my goodness, Susanna and I have a fantastic conversation about systems and processes and how they can free you. So join us this time next week for that one. If you're enjoying the show, we would really appreciate a review. Hit us a little 5 stars if you're enjoying what you're hearing. We would love to hear your thoughts. So you can go and click on whatever platform you're listening on to just give us a little rating, and thank you so much. So until next week, have a great week, and here's to more freedom from your property business.